Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Beth and this is Kick-Ass Crochet. So in today's video I thought I would set myself a little challenge, and that challenge is to start learning to knit again. So I have knit in the past, but I got very bored of it very quickly. So I took the classic approach that we're often told to take, which is to start with like a scarf or some squares, something flat and simple. And I just got bored really quickly and decided that I didn't really like knitting because it's too slow and it's too boring. Having said that, a recent pattern that I've seen on Instagram floating around has really put me in the mood to try again. So the pattern is the Sushi Date Sweater by Friday Knits, and I'm just in love. I first saw this jumper ages ago, about 25 weeks ago, I guess, and I fell in love with it immediately. I love anything to do with Japanese culture, Japanese food, and the little sushi soy sauce fish is such an iconic image. I absolutely love this jumper. It is so darn cute. I think this is probably the best knitted thing I've ever seen in my whole entire life, and I really, really want to make it. But then, of course, reality sets in. I'm not a knitter. I haven't knitted anything successfully in my entire life, and it kind of went to the back of my brain for a little while. But then she came out with this pouch pattern, and it got me back into thinking, what if I gave it a go? It might be my inexperience talking, but that looks like it's probably going to be significantly easier than the jumper is, since there shouldn't ought to be any increasing or decreasing or shaping. Perhaps I could give this pouch a go and use it as an introduction to some of the skills that I'll need later for the jumper. But then, like a lot of projects, it kind of went on the back burner for me again. I forgot about it, it went out of my mind. And it'd occasionally pop up in my news feed. I saw this post with all the pattern testers in, and they all just look gorgeous. Like, I love all of the colour combinations that people have chosen. It's just such a cool jumper, isn't it? Then this morning we hit the final straw. I've been thinking about the jumper for a while, but this morning I saw that she'd put out a pattern for a child's version, and now I'm just obsessed with the idea of making a matching one for me and my son. Okie dokie, so I think I'm going to start with the bag, and looking through the pattern now, it seems to be incredibly well written. She's been really thorough with instructions of sort of what you need and such. And whenever there's a skill, so for example, doing ladder back jacquard techniques and colour dominance and stockinette stitch and Kitchener stitch and all that, she's linked techniques. She's linked YouTube videos to show us how to do those things. So this might seem a bit mad, but I might just jump straight in. What's the worst that can happen? Let's give it a go, hey? What could possibly go wrong? As you may imagine, I started by relearning how to cast on. I watched a few different tutorials, but it finally clicked using the left-handed cast on video by Chickadee Crochet Club. I was quite frustrated with learning to cast on, but it really did click with this video, so I'll put some links in the description for all of the videos that I mention in this video. Once I'd mastered casting on, I then moved on to learning the knit stitch. Again, it took me a lot of tries, but I eventually landed upon the left-handed knit stitch video by Studio Knits. The first few videos I watched used Continental, and I just could not get my head around it. But the moment I started watching videos on English style, it made so much more sense. So then I knit a swatch back and forth just to get used to it. And this is what I got. I think I got more consistent as I went on. I'm quite pleased with my consistency now. And I suppose I could learn to purl next, but the pattern that I'm aiming for doesn't have any purling in it. So I think I'm just going to skip to trying to work in the round and see how that goes for me. Hopefully, fingers crossed, my yarn will arrive soon. Clearly there was a bit of foreshadowing earlier in the video. This wasn't going to be as simple as I thought it was going to be. As it turns out, it starts with a provisional cast on. So that was the first thing I had to learn. I watched a few different tutorials, but I landed upon a tutorial from the Woolbirds. My provisional cast on definitely isn't perfect, but I think it's a good start for someone who's never done it before. But then I had an absolute mare. The stitches weren't moving around my interchangeable needles as nicely as I thought they should do. And as it turned out, I was using the wrong size of cable. So I then had to order a shorter cable and then try and install it onto my work whilst I was still working on it. And as it turns out, that's really, really, really hard. But once I had finally worked out how to do it, it did make it so much smoother, so much easier to knit. So it was definitely worth the effort, even though it took me well over an hour to get it changed over. If anyone has any suggestions for a more efficient way to do this, please do let me know. With the cable changed over, I was able to make some real progress knitting the 11 rows of knit stitch. And I'd like to think that I got more efficient and smoother and more consistent over time. It definitely looks that way. Yarn. And I have now knit the 11 rows required to get to the eyelet round. I've never done an eyelet before. And once I've done that eyelet round, we'll be moving on to colour work, which I've also never done before. So I think I'm probably just going to procrastinate and do the I-cord. The pattern did actually ask to do the I-cord before this bit, but I didn't have my DPNs at the time. So I went straight onto this. So I think I'm going to go back now and work on the I-cord for a little while. So it was time to search out another tutorial on YouTube. This time I found a knitted I-cord tutorial for a 2-stitch I-cord. I found the tutorial by the Knitted Shop, and I picked it up pretty quickly, actually. Knitting an I-cord was fiddly to start with, but once I got into a flow, it was okay. I'm not sure if the I-cord is supposed to twist this much, but I did make a lot of progress with it. Not only was the I-cord twisting, but my working yarn was twisting and splitting, so it was a little bit annoying, but I did get there eventually. The I-cords are finished. Tell me why are I-cords so boring? Like, I've heard people talk about it in the past, about how they hate to knit I-cords, and when I started knitting the I-cords, I really didn't get it because they seem so simple. But my God, are they boring. But that's that complete. So now it's time to move on to the colour work. So the first job was to create the eyelet round, which would allow me to thread the I-cords through to create a drawstring. I used a video from Studio Knits to learn to slip knit and to knit two together. Next it was time to move on to the colour work rows. So I watched a few videos to help me with that. I found a really useful video from a channel called Knitting with Susan Bryan. that just explained how the different ways you can hold your yarn whilst you're doing colour work, and I found that really helpful because for the first few rows my yarn was twisting all over the place, but once I'd watched that video I was able to work out how best to hold onto my yarn so that it didn't twist. I'm back and I've now finished my rows of eyelets and colour work. There we are. I've got some thoughts. So with the eyelet round, I'm not sure if I've done that super correctly. One thing I'm not sure of as a left-handed knitter is if I need to swap the decrease types when I'm doing eyelets. I'm not entirely sure if I've done that right. But whether I've done it right or not, I do have some holes. So I guess it's passable. And I really enjoyed doing the colour work. The colour work was so much more fun than the I-cords. And it went really, really quickly. So that is that section done now. My red yarn is in an absolute state. I have absolutely no idea why, but I suspect it's something to do with the baby. But I've only got one more row of red to do anyway, so I'm hoping to just nurse it and I'll rewind it once I've fastened it off. But that will have to be in the next video. So the next part of this pattern I have to do is undo the provisional cast on, slip it back onto some needles, and then sandwich the I-cords between the layers and knit both sides together, the back and the front. And that's a little bit intimidating. I think it's going to take me a while to get my head around that and to get the confidence up to even start. So we're going to call it an end for this video here. That's it for today's video. If you liked it, please like the video, and if you'd like to come and hang out again, subscribe. Until the next video, look after yourself, have a great day, and goodbye.